David St. John, who is facing multiple charges including aggravated sexual assault in Houston, Texas. As per reports, St. John took a girl to a motel and sexually assaulted her at gunpoint. At the time of the incident, St. John was already awaiting trial for 3 other crimes, including possession of the pistol he used during the alleged assault. Now in court, as the judge was seemingly distracted with another issue, St. John did something outrageous.
Panic button. Call someone.
What was that?
He kept repeating, "Did you learn your lesson before punching a man in the face?" Fortunately, St. John was quickly subdued by an officer. As he was being cuffed, St. John continued to offer advice.
Sit down, man. Sit down. You learned your lesson. Hey! I'm fine. No, you need to learn your lesson so you don't end up like me.
It was unclear why St. John attacked the man, but before leaving the courtroom, he had one final word of wisdom.
I did that for your good, son. Don't end up like me. I'm not.
However, St. John pled guilty to his original charges and was sentenced to 2 25-year sentences. While David St. John's crazy courtroom behaviour, this is 39-year-old Michael Madison, who's on trial for multiple murders in Ohio. According to reports, Madison kidnapped and killed 3 women in 2013 before dumping their bodies in plastic bags near his home in East Cleveland. Police also found decomposed human remains in his apartment. His front door was boarded up, and investigators reported a grisly scene inside. There was an unmade bed, and evidence of decomposition fluid was found in several parts of the apartment, along with maggots attached to the fluid. Madison was arrested and charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder. If convicted, he could be facing the death penalty. At his trial, the defense claimed the murders were spontaneous and in the heat of the moment, arguing that each of these individuals was killed with a sudden eruption of violence. They noted he made no effort to bury the bodies or conceal them, despite their being in fairly obvious areas. However, the prosecution argued that Madison's actions were calculated and premeditated. They pointed out that he killed the victims in the same way, at the same place, and in a short time frame, then disposed of their bodies to avoid detection. He tied 2 of the victims up with duct tape, positioning their bodies in a disturbing way. Eventually, Madison was found guilty of all charges. The victims' family members cried tears of joy during sentencing. Van Terry, a victim's father, addressed his daughter's killer, looking straight at Madison as the defendant grinned at him off camera. This prompted Terry to explode in emotion, and he was quickly apprehended and taken out of the courtroom without facing additional charges. A short while later, Judge Nancy McDonnell addressed the court, expressing her shock at the inhumanity of Madison's actions.
I am struck by the sheer inhumanity of what one human being can do to not one, but 3 human beings. It is incomprehensible.
Finally, Madison received his sentence.
Accordingly, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant Michael Madison on counts 1, 4, and 7.
Ultimately, he received the death penalty. This is 36-year-old Michael Ray, appearing on charges of terroristic threatening and second-degree assault. Prosecutors requested a $25,000 bail based on the crime and Ray's criminal history. The county requested $225,000 full cash bail on all charges. Ray responded with a sassy attitude, which didn't impress the judge, who doubled his bond to $50,000 with no bail credit. However, Ray was not done. After being removed, Ray continued his outburst. The judge held him in contempt after he cussed her out and flipped her off camera, resulting in a 30-day sentence for contempt. Ray's behaviour only worsened as he continued to lash out. The judge responded by extending his contempt sentence to 100 days due to repeated disrespect. What began with a couple of charges and a $25,000 bond ended up with Ray facing 10 serious charges and a total bail amount of $75,000, while Michael Ray ended up biting off more than he could chew, similar to what happens when a convict insults his victims' families as seen in the case of TJ Lane, who faced trial for multiple murders in Ohio. Lane, who was 17 at the time, opened fire at Chardon High School on February 27, 2012, gravely injuring several students. Authorities were flooded with 911 calls as the shooting unfolded. After firing in the cafeteria, Lane was chased outside by the school's assistant football coach Frank Hall and later arrested by police. Tragically, 16-year-old Daniel Parmatour died at the scene, while 17-year-old Russell King Jr. and 16-year-old Demetrius Hewlin later succumbed to their injuries. Another victim, 17-year-old Nick Walczak, was left permanently paralysed. Lane was charged as an adult with 3 counts of murder. His friends described him as a quiet teenager who often kept to himself. Reports also indicated a troubled home life, with his father previously imprisoned on assault charges and his mother frequently away. Initially, Lane pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, claiming he often heard voices. However, he was found competent to stand trial and ultimately pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. At his sentencing, Lane showed no signs of remorse as the victim's family members addressed him. Lane's lack of remorse became even more evident when he arrived for sentencing, unbuttoning his shirt to reveal a white t-shirt with the word killer scribbled on it. He displayed the shirt with a smug smile and, shockingly, taunted the victims' families with a disturbing statement. Ultimately, Lane was sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murders of his classmates, leaving everyone stunned by his callous behaviour. This is Ius Coar, a 33-year-old alleged gang member facing trial for a 2015 shootout with police. The incident began when Colbert broke into his ex-girlfriend's apartment in San Diego, California. Armed with multiple weapons, he opened fire when police arrived. The standoff lasted over 5 hours, causing authorities to shut down nearby roads and temporarily suspend operations at a nearby airport. Fortunately, no one was injured, and Colbert eventually surrendered without resistance. He was charged with attempted murder and possession of a firearm. However, Colbert's disruptive behaviour continued into the courtroom. During his arraignment, he flashed gang signs at the judge and repeatedly stated,
"I will not be subject to criminal abuse."
He even gave the court an unsolicited history lesson, referencing May 1st, 1776.
May 1st, 1776. May 1st, 1776. May 1st, 1776. May 1st, 1776. I stand for a new world order.
The date he claimed the Illuminati was founded. Colbert declared his allegiance to what he called the New World Order, citing an alleged secret society with supernatural powers. As his behaviour became increasingly erratic, Colbert was removed from the courtroom. When he returned the following week, he continued singing and chanting, prompting the judge to warn him,
"Mr. Colbert, you get one shot at listening to me. Keep your mouth shut or you're out of here. Do you understand?"
We are the Illuminati!
Colbert, unfazed, continued with remarks about the Illuminati, declaring, "We are the Illuminati." In a later jailhouse interview, Colbert doubled down on his claims, asserting that he was part of an ancient secret society.
I can travel in and out of time zones, and I am a special human being, and I'm protected.
Following these declarations, Colbert was sent for a psychiatric evaluation, where he was ultimately deemed fit to stand trial. Despite his unusual behaviour, Colbert eventually pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 20 years. This is Marcel Brooks faced serious charges in Buffalo, New York in 2016, accused of violently assaulting a toddler in his care. Brooks, then 26, was babysitting 2-year-old Devon Grabowski when, in a fit of frustration, he shook the child forcefully, leaving the toddler with permanent medical issues. As a result of the assault, young Devon struggled with vision impairments, and his ability to stand and use his left hand was severely affected. Devon's family was devastated, witnessing the child fight daily to regain basic functions. This incident wasn't Brooks' first offence against a child. In 2010, he was convicted of similar charges after injuring another girlfriend's baby. The prosecutor pointed to Brooks' pattern of behaviour, describing him as a career criminal with a disturbing history of child abuse. Eventually, Brooks pleaded guilty to first-degree assault. However, during sentencing, he displayed no remorse, instead smirking at the victim's family in the gallery. Devon's grandmother expressed her anger, saying,
"Seeing him in court today with a smirk on his face, it was like, I can imagine what other grandparents and parents would do. You know, you just want to go there and you just want to strangle him.
In a last-minute attempt to dodge responsibility, Brooks tried to retract his guilty plea during sentencing, declaring,
I'm withdrawing my plea of guilty to not guilty, and I'm withdrawing my plea to appeal. I'm withdrawing my plea to...
Judge William Boller, unimpressed, took swift action, informing Brooks that he would sign the plea on his behalf due to Brooks' history of child abuse. Ultimately, Brooks received a 15-year prison sentence, followed by 5 years of post-release supervision. Despite the sentencing, as he was led out of the courtroom, Brooks showed one final act of defiance, leaving the victim's family further angered by his lack of remorse.